slide. So I wanted to start by giving a bit of context about where the Women's Development Programme sits within British Rowing and a bit about our pathway as well. It's one of the programmes that is part of Performance Talent, which itself sits as part of the Performance Directorate. We work to support rowers who show potential to take their first steps onto their performance journey. We are separate from World Class Start, high performance programmes, and the Junior Under 23 programmes. I should say under 19 and under 23 programmes now, although some of our work does cross over and collaborate on certain projects. We work quite closely quite often. Performance Talent focuses on rowers already in clubs, schools and universities to support them, their coaches and clubs develop and expand on their potential. I'd like to highly encourage anybody here to take up as many of the possibilities they can see on their screen at the moment as possible. I know some of you will have come from the Student Development Programme and DICE programmes already. It would be great to have some of you, everybody on tonight go across those programmes as well. And we also run England teams as well, and that will be both for Home International, Commonwealth, and both Home International and Commonwealth events in the future. And just because you're on one of those programmes doesn't mean you can apply for others. You can apply for as many of those programmes as you like. So just wanted to give an idea of what's going to be happening over the course of this year. So we have the 3 theme days, the 3 theme sessions, and of course today we're going through Fundamentals of Power, which is going to be learning to move efficiently to perform a more powerful stroke. That will lead on to our next session, which will be happening in January and February, which will be looking at strength and conditioning. So taking that good movement pattern that we've been working on first, and then being able to increase the power output using that good movement. And then we'll be taking both those things and putting it into a small boats at the Small Boat Technical Development Day, and looking at discovering how to improve coordination and efficiently move a boat, so making the boat go quicker. In addition to the practical days, there will be virtual sessions. They live both coaches and rowers, and your lead coaches will be in touch about when those sessions are happening if they haven't been already. For rowers, you will also have a virtual session afterwards, and you'll be joined by a GB rower to share their experience and knowledge as well. And those sessions are only going to be as good as what you guys put into them. So we don't want this to just be us telling you to do something. We want you to bring your experience, your challenges, and to challenge us to create discussion around women's rowing to help you grow, us grow, coaches grow. We want to share all the experience and knowledge that everybody has to grow confidence of the athletes we have in the programme, and make all the rowers and coaches be the best we can be, basically. We want to strengthen women's rowing in this country. So I wanted to speak a little bit about our camp as well, because that's something we wanted to do last year, but obviously with COVID we couldn't. We don't have confirmed dates yet, but it's likely to be the last weekend in July or the first weekend in August, somewhere around that time. We will hopefully be able to confirm a date and location after Christmas. We're awaiting the diary of what the senior teams who are usually based at Caversham will be doing, as we would really like to be able to host that camp at Caversham. Full disclosure, we've not actually run the camp before. The last year was the first time we were hoping to run that camp. The image is from from the Student Development Programme back in 2019, and I'm showing that image because that's the kind of culture we want to create. We want people to come, share the experience, build each other up, and allow each other to grow on all the Performance Talent programmes. For the camp, we are planning. The camp we are planning will be in quads and fours. Focusing on understanding the requirements for personal success. We will try and match up rowers as best as possible for the camp in crews, and on the camp you will learn about the ethos and behaviours expected of rowers attending GB camps, if you've not already been on one before. But you'll also learn how to keep yourself in good condition and how you should be training to bring out your best results. Make you the best you can be. The camp will be for a limited number, and attendees will be invited based on their attendance to the Women's Development Programme sessions. completion and the results from the submitted rower reports, as well as feedback from the Women's Development Programme coaches and other supporting data if we have any. Just a little bit to explain about the rower report. Our rower report is here to show your unique profile of you as an athlete and allows you to assess your areas of strength, areas of improvement, as well as where you currently stand against trial standards. To be considered for attendance at the camp, these will need to be completed. The next time to submit data will be in December, and the best way to do it is do your training programs as you currently have them planned, but keep a good record of your ergo scores between now and December. We don't really want you to do anything different. What we would request in the week or two prior to actually submitting the data is to go through the athleticism test, which is part of the testing protocols. And the testing protocols are actually attached to this webinar as a handout, so you can download them, or you can find them by going to the British Rowing website, clicking on the GB Rowing team at the top. One of the sections that comes down is performance talent. You should be able to see a link there which says row report. That's where you should be able to find it. December is the next report. Following reports from that will be in April and July. So before I hand over to Richard, I wanted to say a quick word about the amazing coaches we have on the programme. If you haven't already, I'm sure you'll soon meet the lead coach of the programme for your region. And each one brings a wealth of knowledge and experience with them. And one of the things I'd like to challenge everyone here to do is please do ask questions of them, bring your experience and share your knowledge as well. We want the programme to be for everyone to share ideas, openly talk about women's development across the sport, as well as challenge us with your thoughts on what we are going through in the sessions. We really don't want it to be as simple as do this to you. We want to have that discussion in the room. And with that, something we've tried to do, and we started back in 2020, was bring on a group of support coaches. So this is a really very exciting group of inspiring coaches. Everyone there has been chosen because they show the drive to inspire and challenge everyone on the programme to really push development of women's rowing. When we went out and advertised that, we actually actively looked for people not involved in rowing. We looked for people who were inspiring and wanted to challenge what we were doing. So some of the coaches there are from rowing backgrounds, but quite a few of them aren't. And we have coaches who have experience working with and inspiring women in equestrian, sailing, football, rugby and hockey at a range of levels, grassroots to Olympic level. And last year really showed what each of these coaches brought to the programme, sharing their experience and passion for developing women's sport and supporting others on our performance pathway as well. And it's been fantastic working with all of these coaches over the past year. So with that, I'm almost finished and I'm almost ready to pass over to Richard. Hopefully you already have the contact details to the coach in your region, but if you don't, they're all up on the screen here. When you email one of these email addresses, when you get a response, it won't be from this email address, it will be from their email address. But if you email that, it will go to the support coach and the lead coach as well. So if you hopefully have those, if you haven't had time or don't have pen and paper at hand, they are also on the British Rowing website under Performance Talent on the Women's Development Programme page as well. And lastly, my contact details, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, there is my email address, or on Twitter and Instagram, I am James_HOPT. That is everything from me. So I will stop presenting. And I can see Richard on my other screen. Great. And I will let you take over.
Cheers. I'm just going to... There we go. Get rid of you. Sorry, James. I need to make my face as big as possible because I'm going to show you some slides. So here we go. Tonight we're here to talk about the first in the series, Fundamentals of Power for this year. If you've got any questions, stick them in the box as we go through. We'll answer them at the end. And that one's quite simple. We're really, really excited to actually have a gym session. get in the gym and hands on with people. It's, as everyone knows, last year was a challenge. Everyone did extremely well stepping up, and now it's time to step on. So we're really excited about that. We're aiming to build on the progress that we made last year. So there are quite a few people returning, which is excellent in its own right. And then we also have quite a lot of new people. So the new people who turn up, both athletes and coaches, can learn a lot from the people who were around last year, as well as from us. The goal is to be driving standards up consistently higher over multiple seasons. So this first session, really, it's about building the most powerful rowing stroke possible, as James said. We'll make progress, from this, but this is in the future. But this is the basis of everything we do over the year. So make sure you're paying attention when you're in the gym. We're going to start from the very beginning. So the concept is we start in the middle and we work outwards. So we're going to start with the hips, and then we're going to work out a bit to the trunk and spine, out a bit to the knees, out a bit to the shoulders. Starting in the middle, working out, we're going to build the rowing stroke up in exactly the same way. So move from the hip is something you're going to hear a lot. You might also hear move from the hips without curving the spine, or the slightly opaque version is disassociate hip flexion from lumbar spine flexion. So you can see that the person in the picture here has hinged over from the middle, from the top of their legs. So the pelvis is rocking forward, and the trunk is staying, completely neutral, stays in the same place. It's not a normal pattern, so people don't normally move like this. If you were to bend down to pick something up, you would normally bend at the hips, but also curve your spine a bit, and that's very healthy. But when you're loading horizontally, when you're loading the trunk horizontally over and over again, having the spine stay neutral, or as neutral as possible the whole time, is a really, really healthy habit to have. So the hip hinge is the way that we'll get this across. You'll not need any equipment for this at all. We're trying to develop conscious control over the hip joints. So this right here is someone moving through the exercise. You can see how the pelvis rolls forward, but the spine stays still. And then same on the way up, pelvis rolls back, spine stays still. Okay. So maybe if you're a rower who curves your spine a lot at the moment, it might not be necessarily that you're inflexible. You might be, but it might just be that you need to work on this bit of skill. You might just need a bit of coordination for it. You might be in quite a hunched catch position, and maybe develop some lower back pain. So when someone does this really, really well, the hip extension and posture is really good. So someone's going to be moving a little bit like this through the middle of the stroke. So really quite a powerful movement and pretty neutral in the trunk the whole time. Okay. The next thing we're going to look at is how to coordinate the knees and hips. So we've got the hips going. We'll see if we can add the knees to it as well. We'll do that with the squat. Nice and simple way to do that. There's a lot of notes on the screen there. But I'll show you the video instead. So you can see the chest and the head stay up looking forward. You can't see that the knees track over the toes because we're side on, but they are. You have to believe me. Sophie is going down quite low, but she's not going so low that her lumbar spine's curving over very much or at all. And the feet staying flat on the floor. Okay, so someone who might benefit from this, maybe someone's got a relatively weak leg drive. Doing loads and loads of these is going to help. Maybe they lose connection in the middle of the drive, so that they can kick their legs nice and hard, like their knees extend really, really strong and fast, but the knee extension isn't really well connected to the hip extension, so you get a push followed by a pull, and then a bit of a void in the middle where not much happens. And again, it's a bit of a back pain issue as well. So someone who's doing this particularly well, when you jump onto the ergo in your gym session, you're going to be thinking about how your leg and hip drive's coordinated. And your trunk, obviously, again, is going to stay stable. So back to that initial same cue as before on the hip hinge. So we've got a little video here of someone getting into, there we go, just the leg and hip drive there. So we've got quite a strong push with the legs. And then the hip drive's opening up just before the leg drive's finished. And yeah, you could pick apart all of these videos, and there are minor issues with each of them, but they're chosen because they display the main point well. We'll also have a bit of a look at how you move around the shoulders, really, in particular. So we'll generally use press up for that. Again, doesn't really need any equipment. And you'll see exactly the same cue again there. Don't move the spine while you perform the exercise. So your trunk stays neutral throughout. Quite a good demo from Amy here. Rock solid through the trunk and repping for days. Okay. Shoulders really good and stable there. Again, someone who's got slightly hunched shoulders, or maybe they really, really bend their arms hard at the start of the drive in particular, bend them too early, too much. They might benefit from this, from having a bit of focus on how the shoulders are set and a bit of strengthening work there. Someone might be a bit slow to connect the front end of the drive, or the back end might be a bit weak. So, through the front and the back might be a bit soft. Often that'll be, a lack of shoulder stability, and then also shoulder and rib pain. They're quite big ones for this as well. And stress fractures, especially around the ribs, and especially for women, is something to keep a little bit of an eye on. I'll give you a little tip on that in a second. The next one we've got, around the upper body stability, is supine pull. So it's almost exactly the same, oddly, except the opposite. So you're still leaving the shoulder in the same position as you did the press up, and the arms are still moving sort of straight forward and back. You're just reversing the load. So the load is the same direction as in a rowing stroke. And you're going to end up with something a little bit like this. So pulling the bar, or pulling yourself up to the bar through to the sternum. So it's actually a little bit high there. We would want the bar close to the sternum as she pulls, but you can see the elbows coming well past the body. Boom. Good stuff. Right. Okay, so the stress fracture thing that I mentioned earlier, this is kind of comes into play here. So the shoulders will stay low if someone's doing this well, and that's generally a good sign. And the flip side, if the shoulders come up towards the ears during the stroke, again, that's a sort of instability thing, and that can be a bit of a killer for rib stress fractures. And you'll find that if someone does this really, really well, the connection's going to happen pretty quick at the front, which everybody likes. Nice quick onto the front without having to rush it. And then the legs, hips, and arms are all going to finish together. That last bit of the stroke's going to be pushed out together quite well, but the shoulders have to be relatively strong in order to achieve that. And you're going to end up with something a little bit like this. So you can see that there's a little bit of a rise in the shoulders of this person right in the middle of the stroke, but you can always see all of the neck. The neck never disappears there. If the neck's starting to disappear, that's a really good indicator. You probably want to look at this. Okay. So some of these skills might need to be made simpler. Like not everybody is going to be able to rep out 50 press-ups immediately like Amy there. But that doesn't mean that the quality of what you're doing can be any lower. So you just need to find ways to reduce the load so that it's appropriate and then work up from there. Quality is always king on this. So for example, on the press up, you might have a table. And if you put your hands on the table and do a press up with your hands on the table, you're going to find that a whole lot easier. You're going to be able to achieve that really high quality of movement and rep that a lot. Build it up and just work lower and lower. Eventually, you're going to be doing press-ups off the ground. James already mentioned the performance testing protocols that are attached to this webinar and also on the internet. If you Google performance testing protocols rowing, I think they probably come up first time. You can also have a bit of a look at the rower development guide, which you can get to through Rowhow. And I would recommend you have a bit of a play with the 7-stroke max. If you have a look at the performance testing protocols, if you've never done it before, and then have a go at some 7-stroke maxes on rate 34. The idea being find some more power and get some numbers to it so you can actually see yourself progressing. Another fun thing to do is work towards completing a pull-up because why not have a go? A little note on the big blue button. So any online meetings you might have with your regional coaches, they're going to be done through this wherever possible because it has automatic recording functions built in and stuff. So there's lots of juniors safeguarding things that are just built into the platform, so we don't have to stress about that. And session times are arranged with your regional lead coach. I think that's all I've got. So hopefully you've got a lot there that you can use to prepare yourself for the main. James, I turned your camera off earlier, sorry. That you can prepare yourself for the main event when we actually get into the gym and absolutely make the most of it. We got any questions?
We do. So we've only got a couple so far, but if people want to keep on putting their questions in, sometimes between us speaking and you hearing is about 30 seconds to a minute. So we always leave it a bit of time for people to put their question in, but we do have 2 already. First one, do we retain access to the webinar content? And that answer is a yes. You should be able to access the webinar through the same link as I mentioned earlier. The handouts should be available on the website, but we can put both of those up onto Rowhow as well. It is one of my jobs for tomorrow is to finalise the registers for everybody in each of the regions and to make sure you're all signed up. So you'll be able to go into Rowhow, access Women's Development Programme, and you'll be able to go to your region and find documents and things there. That's where you'll find the big blue button as well that Richard mentioned earlier. Richard, is there anything specific that we should bring to each of the training days?
Water, food, appropriate kit for a indoor training session. Change of clothes, because why not? A good night's sleep beforehand.
Cool. Next question. Is there any opportunity to have access to ergs in the programme, as currently we do not have access to our gyms club? Unfortunately not. We're not able to give out any ergos. But at each of the days there will be ergos there to use, especially at the fundamentals of power. Maybe at the strength and conditioning day, there should be access to ergos to be able to use on each of those days, but we can't hand out ergos to anybody as part of the programme, unfortunately. I think you've got another question. What is the best way to apply power through the stroke, e.g. front load? I'm just trying to see if that's the... no, here's the whole question. What is the best way to apply power through the stroke, e.g. front load, accelerate through the drive?
That's there's likely to be a technically correct answer for that. But generally, the way people approach it at the very top is super, super simple. If you can put a bit more force on somewhere, then do that, because you will go faster. There are other things to talk around that point. It's super interesting, like how people really, really struggle to adjust their force profile over time. For some reason, it's a little bit of a fingerprint. You can do some really, really hard work in the gym and make some changes to it. It's definitely possible, but it's difficult. I personally coach front-loaded, so like get onto it straight away and then keep going, because I find that for development athletes, that is normally what they need. They need to be able to apply lots and lots of power, and then we can refine that afterwards when they get extremely powerful. If they're going very, very fast and we want to fine-tune things, then we can start thinking about that. But the first thing is like go quite quick to begin with. Okay, sorry, yeah. We're going to get some fun coaching questions.
You could go on that, I'm sure, Richard, can you? Yeah. Will our regional coaches be in contact with us regularly regarding our general progress, or will it just be the practical days / virtual days? Generally, the coaches will be in contact with you occasionally around each of the days and virtual sessions, but the majority of their time will be around the practical days and virtual sessions. If you do have any questions for them, please do contact them. Please do ask them. You'll get as much out of them. Try to get as much out of them as possible. They won't be giving out training programs or anything like that. That is for your club coach to do. But please do use them. Ask them questions. Contact them to ask anything you'd like. Have training sessions been scheduled yet? And that comes on to the next one. When will the dates be confirmed as well? So some of the regions have been able to confirm dates, especially for the practical days. The regions that have been confirmed should all be up on the Women's Development Programme site. There is a little box to the left of the page which shows you the regions and the contacts. There should be posters there. I know not all the regions have been able to confirm venues and locations yet. They should hopefully be done very shortly. Best people to ask are your lead coaches to confirm that. Are the benchmarking tests to be completed in our own time or at the training days? Those will be the athleticism tests, I'm assuming, for the testing protocols. They will be to be completed in your own time, but particularly the first day, you'll be going through quite a lot of what the testing protocols are. So make sure to ask your lead coaches, your support coaches will be going through them on the first day. Make sure to ask them questions about it to make sure you're doing it all correctly. Do we need any more erg tests before the first session? And the simple answer to that is No. No more org tests before the first session. Just keep a record of any ergo training that you do before December. There will be the two which might not be done in a regular training program will be a 7-stroke and a 250. Do we have 250 still as part of our row report? I think we do, don't we? So a 7-stroke and 250 won't be part of your regular training, so those might be one to be done as close to the time of reporting as possible. The other tests are 2K, 5K, and 30-minute. Completely understand if you're not doing a 2K before Christmas, don't fit one in just because you have to do it in the row report. Just try and do your training program as naturally as possible and upload as much information as you do in your normal training. Should we wear a lycra to the gym day or normal gym kit? Whatever you feel most comfortable in, whatever you would do, wear to do normal training on land. Basically, if you feel comfortable wearing a lycra, wear the lycra. If you feel more comfortable wearing gym kit, if you're going to the gym, wear that. Whatever you feel most comfortable in to be able to use. That is all the questions so far. Sorry, there's no more really technical ones for you, Richard.
Oh no, gutted.
Do you want to answer the next one?
Yeah, so is the Women's Development Programme linked with junior trials, or will it help us prepare for trials? So the junior women's trials has a land-based skill testing element to it, and the stuff you do on this does line up to a certain amount with that. So from that perspective, yes, it will help. Although this is not junior trials, the scores that you get here are not used for selection for any kind of age group team. They are used so that we can kind of we know what we're doing is effective, so that you can track your own progress over time in order to get the most out of yourself.
Spot on. There's no more questions coming in, which is when Richard and I get the awkward silence together, not being able to see anybody. We'll give you a few more seconds. That's it. There we go. Another one come in. Stops the awkward silence. There we go. So when should one bring in the hips in the leg drive, and is there any reason for a pause at the finish off the back?
Hey, more coaching chat. So in general, like the finer points we'll go over on the day, because it's always better to talk face to face about this stuff. It's always more fun. The hip drive and the leg drive overlap to at whatever point they need to. If you're pushing your legs down, you'll get to a point where the knees are almost flat, and extending them isn't really doing anything. And the hips need to be already have taken over by that point, so that you don't get any drop in power. It's probable, you probably looked at a couple of the videos that I put up and were like, well, that looks like there's kind of an early opening of the body there, and maybe to my taste as well, they were probably opening their body a little bit early, but I personally rather they were opening them a bit early than a bit late. But again, that comes down to who you're coaching and what that situation is. Is there any reason for a pause at the finish on the back turn? Yeah. Okay. Maybe if you get in touch with me afterwards and we can exchange a few emails, that'd probably be more appropriate way to do that one, just to stop me boring everybody else.
I'm sure there'll be lots of discussions on the days about that kind of thing. To be perfectly honest, I could probably ask all 12 coaches that same question, and I might get different answers from each. So, yeah, lots of discussion to be happening, which is really exciting. Yeah, it should have come up earlier. If not, it's on the website.
Yeah.
But hopefully everybody's got mine, so if anybody does have any questions, I can forward it on to the right region. We will stop the questions there. I think that's a good load of questions that we've had. You do have our contact details if anybody does want to ask any other questions. Otherwise, I hope everybody has a fantastic time on the programme this year. I know all the coaches are really excited to work with everybody, and let's make it a fantastic year and see how many women we can get improving and being the best they can be. Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. See you all soon. How do I stop the webinar? It's all gone. That one. Brilliant. Thanks, everybody. Bye.